Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we're going to do something we've not actually ever done before, a new kind of video, which is going to be an absolute pain in the neck to edit, and it's going to take ages, and it might be a really good video, or nobody might want to watch it, but please watch it, because that would make me sad. Of course, that plea to watch it is, of course, entirely irrelevant, because you're already watching it. I don't know. We're going to look at every single card from Evolving Skies, and as we go through, I'm going to give you just a tiny bit of chatter about each of them. Only a few seconds, because there are a lot of cards. So let's start off with grass. We've got ourselves a new pincer. It does take away resistance from your Pokemon Stringle Strike's attack, so that could be useful in some games in the future. We do have ourselves a Jumpluff that can attack twice per turn, which is kind of cool. Not forgetting the Skip Bloom with Solar Evolution that lets you evolve when you attach an energy. So you basically go Hoppip, evolve to Skip Bloom, attach an energy, and it makes it a pseudo stage 1, which is kind of awesome. There's a Seedot, which is going to evolve later. A Tropius, which does have a revenge attack, 120 for 2 energy if you had a Pokemon KO'd last turn, which is alright. We got ourselves Leafeon V, which I still love this card because it lets you search for a grass energy and attach it. And sure, it ends your turn, but if you've not got anything else anyway, why not? And then, of course, Leafeon VMAX, which has seen a bit of play and success over in Japan for the attack that does 60 damage for each energy in your opponent's retreat cost. Obviously, there are ways to increase that. We got ourselves a Lilligant, which either does sleep or confusion, but it's not that great. We got ourselves a Crustle, which is not a particularly good card, I'm afraid. A Trevenant V, which I'm not a huge fan of, but there's a little bit of hand disruption there. And a Trevenant V Max, which can really punish your opponent for playing lots of supporters, but I fear is going to end up being a little bit too slow. We got an Eldegoss that lets you search for 2 basic energy at some point during your turn, and you've got to think at some point someone's going to want to play that. We've got an Applin that will evolve later. We've got Flareon V Max. Remember, the V is only available as a full art. And I do like this, where you discard the top 5 cards of your deck and deal 100 damage for each energy discarded. This is kind of fun, but I feel like all the ones that have done this in the past, it's going to be a gimmick. There is an Entei, which for 2 energy does 10 damage for each damage counter on all of your single strike Pokemon on the bench. That could be a fun tech at times. There's a Victini that does 30 damage while searching 2 cards, but the 2 energy really is a bit of a killer. There is a Volcarona V that does 20 damage plus 20 more for each basic energy in your discard. Then you shuffle them into your deck. Good as a late game closer when your discard is full of energy. There is a Pyroar that does 70 damage and discards an energy, but it's not particularly good. There is a Golduck. By the way, I'm putting the pre-evolutions on the screen. I'm not talking about them unless they're relevant, because otherwise we really will be here all day. There is nothing really good about this Golduck, not as a stage 1, but they're bringing in the Psyduck with the Okacheke artwork, and you know I'm a fan of Okacheke artwork. There is a Tentacruel, which for free energy does 100 and poison and stops them retreating, and surely you can do something with that. Gyarados V has got a really nice Outrage attack. And then Gyarados V Max can do 240 for 4 energy, but bearing in mind we have a tool that lets it copy the Outrage attack. Just putting that out there. Vaporeon V Max, remember the V is only available as a full art. Vaporeon V Max lets you basically cheat a Pokemon into play, gets you any water Pokemon from your discard to your bench, even if they're an evolution, with some energy attached, or 200 for free energy if they've got any damage on, which could be fun. Suicune V draws a card if it's active, and the attack does 20 damage plus 20 more for each of your opponent's bench Pokemon, which, along with drawing a card, this has seen some play and success over in Japan as a bit of a disruption deck with a decent attack. There is a Ludicolo that lets your basic Pokemon do an extra 100 damage a turn it evolves. Clearly a gimmick, but it's going to be fun. There is a Sharpedo, which does 120 for 2 energy, which isn't terrible. There is a Milotic, which prevents supporter cards done to you or your hand. It basically stops Marnie, alright? And that's not a bad thing. There is a Love Disc, which basically has Copycat as a single energy attack, which could be useful, especially in limited formats. There's a Glaceon V, which can cheat evolution and get there nice and quickly, and a Glaceon VMAX, which is immune to Pokemon VMAX. The attack is fine, but the immunity to VMAXs is great. There is a Tympole, which is going to evolve later. There is a Cryogonal, which lets you look at the top 6 cards of your deck and attach any basic energy you find to your Pokemon in any way you like, and you know people are going to play around with that in weird decks. There is an Avalugg coming, which, I mean, it's got high HP and does lots of damage, but it's too expensive. It's an Avalugg card, basically. There is a Wishy-Washy that if you got 3 or more energy attached, you got up to 180 HP, and it does an extra 30 damage for each energy on this Pokemon. 30 damage base. It's cool, but it's, again, very gimmicky. There is an Ice-Cube with adorable artwork, which, for free energy, does 70 damage and is immune to basic Pokemon next turn, which could be fun. Arctovish V is coming a set later than we would have expected it, and for free energy you do 80 damage, but it stops the defending Pokemon V or GX attacking during your opponent's next turn, which is cool, but your opponent can just switch and get out of it. There is a new Raichu that for a single energy does 50 damage to each Pokemon V and GX in play, which I adore. I think that one could have some utility. There's Jolteon VMAX. Now again, the V is only in the set as a full art. But for 2 energy, it does 100 damage to the active and 100 to a bench that's got any damage on. So if you can ping a bit of damage around the board, you can be taking out support Pokemon on the bench while dealing decent damage. And we've got that tool card we're going to see in a minute that makes it a single energy attack. I like Jolteon VMAX as a weird, dumb speed deck. There is a Lantern, which can make your opponent have to flip a coin to attack next turn. There is an Ampharos, which nobody really cares about. 4 energy, 220 if you discard free lightning. Really, we actually care about the Flaffy, because it's got Dynamotor and can accelerate energy, and that is the real star of this evolution line. It's why Flaffy gets the main spot and Ampharos gets the mini spot. As a side note, more Okacheke artwork here, and I adore that artist so much. There is an Emolga coming that can do 30 in paralysis on a coin flip, which actually for a basic Pokemon with free retreat, that's pretty good. Dracozolt V is finally coming along, again a set later than it should be. It's got a nice attack for a single energy that stops your opponent attaching to the defending Pokemon, though they can still attach to the bench. And then the VMAX, single energy, 60 damage, but if this Pokemon is damaged, you put 12 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon when they attack, so could be worse. Regieleki is getting its first card, free energy, 120, discard all lightning and deal 40 to 2 of your opponent's bench, but I just showed you Flaffy, this is going to be a fun rogue deck. There is a Hypno, which does 120 if they're affected by a special condition, but it's just not good enough. Galarian Articuno, when you bench it, you get to attach 2 extra psychic energy, which is great. It's going to be awesome in Shadow Rider Calyrex decks that just want to have as much energy as they can possibly have on the board to do as much damage as they possibly can. So this is pretty gosh darn good. Plus, it's got an attack that does 120 to one of your opponent's bench, which is clearly going to be a good thing. Espeon V for a single energy does 60 to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon V. It's not bad turn 1. And then the VMAX prevents all effects of attacks from your opponent's Pokemon to any of your Pokemon that have got energy on, which is actually super useful. Plus free energy, 60 damage for each energy attached to all your opponent's Pokemon. If they attach too much energy, you can punish. I like Espeon VMAX. A Wobbuffet for 2 energy puts damage counters on your opponent's active Pokemon equal to the number of damage counters on one of your bench. There's going to be some ways to use that. Sableye searches for a trainer card and puts it in your hand for a single energy, which isn't terrible, but no one's ever going to play it. Swoobat for a single energy does 110 if you got the same number of cards in hand as your opponent. I can certainly see that seeing some play. And Golurk V is one of my favourite cards in the set, because for 4 energy you do 180, but if your opponent's active Pokemon is an evolved Pokemon, you just devolve it. You get rid of the highest evolution stage, which basically means you can one-hit KO VMAXs, which is awesome. We've got Florges that lets you move energy around your Rapid Strike Pokemon as you like, and we got the Flabebe there with the awesome Okacheke artwork. Sylveon V lets you search for an item card. It ends your turn, but again, if you've got nothing else going on, this is great. And Sylveon VMAX for free energy does 70 damage, plus 30 more for each different type of Pokemon on your bench. People are trying to play this, it's seeing a bit of play. Gourgeist has got a nice cheeky attack that does 60 damage for each psychic Pokemon in the top 6 cards of your deck for 2 energy. It's gimmicky, but people are going to try and play it. To be honest, the Pumpkaboo is actually better, because when you bench it, you get to discard a Stadium in play, and we need an attack like that. Rabombi for a single energy does 30 damage and moves an energy from your opponent's active to one of their bench. It's annoying, but it's not going to see much play. Marshadow for a single energy searches for any 2 Rapid Strike cards and puts them in your hand, which is alright if you're having a really slow start to the game. The attack that takes an extra prize card if you take a KO next turn is fine, but if your opponent's switches are active it doesn't work, and also, just get bigger KOs. There's a Hitmonchan that does 70 damage to an evolution for 1 energy, but it's not good enough. Galarian Zapdos has that same ability we saw on the Articuno that attaches 2 fighting energy to it when you bench it. And then for free energy, 70 damage, and if you discard them all, paralysis. Fine, but the weakest of the birds. Medicham V for 2 energy places 2 damage counters on a Pokemon, but if you take a KO, you take an extra turn, as long as you didn't do it last turn, for obvious reasons. And frankly, any deck that can should be playing Medicham V. There is a Hippowdon that, 4 energy, 220. Again, high HP, big damage, not good enough. There is a Gigalith, which, it's not good, alright? Free energy 180 is the best, it's not a good card. Seismitoad comes back after the water basic Pokemon. Single energy, 60 damage, and the defending Pokemon's attacks are 1 more, and the retreat cost is 1 more next turn. Still not particularly good. There is a Lycanroc V that I don't like. Free energy 200's fine, but it's not great. But the VMAX for a single energy gets an instant KO on one of your opponent's Pokemon with 60 HP or less that's in play. And actually, I really like that. Galarian Moltres has the same ability as the other birds, which is to say when you bench it, you get to attach an extra 2 energy. But it's got an attack that does 20 damage plus 50 more for each prize card your opponent's taken. If they've taken 4 prize cards, that's 220. That is generally what you need to go and get a KO on a Pokemon V, which is really good. Umbreon V does 160 for free energy if there's any damage counters on it. With the other single strike tricks, this is really good. And Umbreon V Max has an ability that gusts up a Pokemon. It's phenomenal and will see a huge amount of play. Shiftry also comes back now after the grass basic Pokemon. Unfortunately, as much as Shiftadew is a brilliant attack name, single energy, if they've got any damage counters on, you put the Pokemon and all cards attached to it into your opponent's hand. It's fine and cheeky, but it's not particularly great. Scrafty, free energy, 90 damage, discard a random card from your opponent's hand. I ain't getting excited about. Garbodor V, 2 energy, 40 damage plus poison and they can't retreat is not good enough. But Garbodor V Max, 2 energy, 120, and their poison and can't retreat, I am now all in favour of. Plus it can have 2 Pokemon tools, which is not a bad thing. Zoroark is a card I adore from the set. It's got an ability that lets you swap it with any stage 1 in your discard pile. And it doesn't keep damage counters and things of that nature on it, which makes it super interesting. There is a Feeble that makes both players shuffle a hand into their deck and draw 4 cards. Good for disruption, good for getting you extra cards. It used to be on a basic, it's not anymore. I think that's telling us something. There is an Altaria that lets you search for a supporter card and put it on top of your deck. Incidentally, this is what sees play with Suicune, so you can search out those annoying supporters and draw them with Suicune. There is a Salamence that once during your turn makes your opponent's switch are active at one of their bench. They choose which one comes active. And 220 for 2 energy is fine, but it's a stage 2, awkward attack cost, it's not going to work. Rayquaza V has that attack that we loved a few years ago. Single energy, 40 damage, discard the top 2 cards of your deck. But really, it's all about Rayquaza V Max. The ability lets you discard your hand and draw 3 cards, which is good. And for 2 energy, you deal 20 damage, and you can discard any amount of fire or lightning, fire, or lightning, not both, not a mixture, and do 80 more for each one discarded, it's going to see play with Flaffy, and I really hope it's awesome. We've then got a new Dialga, and I probably should mention, yes, Dragon Pokemon are back. Free energy, 80 damage, stops the defending Pokemon V attacking, but again, they can switch out of it. There is a Hydreigon that for 2 energy does 20 damage, and if your opponent took a KO last turn, you do 100 more damage for each prize card they took. Fun, but way too gimmicky. There is a Kyurem that lets you discard any amount of water energy from any of your Pokemon, doing 60 more for each one you discarded. Fun with Frostmoth, but I rather suspect not going to end up being a particularly good deck. We've got Noivern V that I really like because for single energy, 20 to all of your opponent's Pokemon. Basic Pokemon, single energy, free retreat, yes. Plus, if you can match hand sizes, 180 for 2 energy is not shabby. There is a Zygarde that does 40 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon for each prize card they've taken. Could be fun, but the energy cost is going to make sure no one ever plays it. There is a Drampa that does 160 if any of your bench have any damage on, which is fine, but again, the attack cost is awkward. There is a Flapple that for a single energy does 50 damage for each of your opponent's Pokemon in play with an ability. People are going to play this. It's a good single energy attack. I really quite like it. Also, 2 energy, 160 to a Pokemon V is not terrible. We've then got Appleton. 70 damage for each special energy card attached to all of your opponent's Pokemon is not bad. And then that same fighting tackle attack. Duraludon V, I don't really like because we've got the Metal Duraludon V that came around in Champion's Path, which is frankly just better. But Duraludon VMAX, the ability prevents all damage done to it by any Pokemon that have special energy attached, which is really kind of cool. And then you've also got an attack for free energy that does 220 and isn't affected by any effects on your opponent's active Pokemon. It goes through anything, basically. I'm going to play a bunch of Duraludon VMAX. Regidrago for free energy does 240, minus 20 for each damage counter on it. I don't know if it's going to be good, but people are going to play this as a single prize deck with the Cherim that lets you attach a bunch of grass energy. We've got a new Eevee, which isn't particularly worth shouting about. You can search for free Pokemon V. We've got a new Ursaring, which definitely isn't worth shouting about. A new Smeargle that reveals any number of basic energy cards in your hand and does 30 damage base, plus 30 more for each type of basic energy you revealed in this way. We've got a new Slacking. Now, Slacking I'm not a huge fan of. Free energy, 120 plus 30 more for each of your opponent's bench. But if there's a stadium in play, you can't attack. Basically, what's good about this is the Okacheke art on the Slack-Off, which is adorable. There's a Swablu that goes with the Altaria we saw earlier. There is a Stoutland that says as long as it's active, your opponent's active Pokemon's attacks do 30 less damage to all of your Pokemon, which is cool. Free energy, 120, 220 on a heads is fine, not great. There is a Braviary, 90 to an evolution for a single energy is not good enough. There is a Talonflame, 2 energy, 160 if there's any fire on it. Again, I don't think it's good enough. And that's all your Pokemon. I didn't say it at the beginning, but you saw I put all the special arts, etc. on the screen at the same time. I've already done a video showing off all the special arts, so I don't think we need to go into that now. I'll link it in the description. Now, in terms of trainer cards, we've got a Roma Lady. Draws 2 cards and your active recovers special conditions. Final will see a bit of play. Boost Shake that lets you evolve one of your Pokemon in play and yes, will break the rules of evolution. It ends your turn, but any Pokemon with a super annoying ability that disrupts your opponent is going to love it. Copycat is being reprinted. It's a new draw supporter, or at least new to this format. People are going to play a huge amount of it. Crystal Cave says that once during each player's turn, they can heal 30 damage from their Metal or Dragon Pokemon. Good in Metal and Dragon decks. Digging Gloves does 30 more to your opponent's active fighting Pokemon. And look, I'm going to say the same thing about all of these gloves. If there's a particular matchup where you need that extra damage, do it. Dream Ball lets you search any Pokemon, but only if you took it as a face-down prize card. Great, but awkward to play. Elemental Bad reduces the attack cost of Vaporeon, Jolteon, or Flareon by a colorless energy. All those are going to love it. Full Face Guard lets you take 20 less damage, but only if you don't have an ability. So situational but cool. Gaudy lets you look at the top 7 cards of your deck and put any energy you find into your hand. That includes special energy, that's the reason to play it. Lucky Ice Pop lets you heal 20 from your active and then flip a coin, and if heads it goes into your hand. It doesn't heal enough, it's not going to be played. Moon and Sun Badge is a tool that prevents effects of supporters to Espeon and Umbreon V and VMAX. Maybe. Raihan can only play it if one of your Pokemon was knocked out during your opponent's last turn, but it lets you attach an extra energy and then search your deck for any card, which is clearly good. Rapid Strike Scroll of the Flying Dragon gives an extra attack to Rapid Strike Pokemon that discards 2 energy and deals 90 to one of your opponent's Pokemon. It's the energy cost which is going to be the big thing here. Rescue Carrier puts 2 Pokemon with 90 HP or less from your discard pile into your hand. If you're playing a deck with 90 HP or less Pokemon, this is genuinely awesome recovery. Ribbon Badge, you attach it to Sylveon, and if they're knocked out, your opponent takes 1 fewer prize card. Clearly essential in Sylveon decks. Honestly, it's a good reason to play Sylveon. Rubber Gloves does an extra 30 to Lightning Pokemon. We've talked about this. Shopping Center lets you put a tool from one of your Pokemon to your hand. Lets you swap tools around. It's actually really cool. Single Strike Scroll of the Fanged Dragon is that extra attack for Single Strike Pokemon. 5 energy, discard them 300. Love the damage, hate the attack cost. Snow Leaf Badge gives Glaceon and Leafeon V and VMAX no retreat cost or weakness. Again, essential in those decks. Spirit Mask, if it's attached to a Pokemon and your opponent damages them, they have to discard a card from their hand, which is funny. Stormy Mountain says that once during each player's turn, they can search for a basic Lightning or Dragon Pokemon and put it onto their bench. Clearly great in Lightning and Dragon decks. Switching Cups lets you switch a card from your hand with the top card of your deck. It's Oranguru as an item card, but it's not Oranguru as a basic Pokemon that lets you do it every turn, which means it's really not going to see any play. I'm sorry about that. Toy Catcher lets you do automatic gusting on any Pokemon with 50 HP or less, which is great. But the problem we've got there is it's really situational, but it's going to be cool in some decks. Zinnia's Resolve, you've got to discard 2 other cards from your hand, but you draw a card for each of your opponent's Pokemon in play. Could draw you 6, which is awesome. And Treasure Energy is one of those where you've got to draw it as a face-down prize card, which is super awkward, but then you get to attach it to one of your Pokemon, so you're cheating an extra energy attachment, so that sounds cool. We should briefly mention those other EVs quickly, the ones that are only available as full arts, though they are coming out as tins later. So we've got Flareon V, which lets you search for a fire energy and attach it. 1 energy, 20 damage. It's fine, but the VMAX is the reason to play it. We've got Vaporeon. Single energy, draw 3 cards is fine, I suppose. 3 energy, 90 damage, switch to the bench. Remember, we've got that tool that reduces the attack cost by 1 and Rapid Strike energy, so this can be a single energy attack, which makes me actually kind of like it. And then we've got Jolteon, the, I don't know, 3 energy, flip 4 coins, 60 for each head. I don't like Jolteon V, but I do like the V Max, so none of those cards are really going to see play for the Vs, but they are going to see play for the V Maxes, which is awesome. And to be fair, like I've said, Vaporeon can be a decent hit and run Pokemon. And goodness me, I almost forgot, we've also got Dragonite V. Of course, the regular version has been taken out and put into a promotional box coming out. We're not entirely sure. It looks like September in Europe and about 6 weeks later over in North America. But we do have just the full art and alternate art versions of Dragonite. So that is going to be in the set. 3 energy, 250 is alright. But it does 20 damage to each of your bench and it's awkward attack cost. And yeah, don't forget Dragonite. Dragonite's not in the set normally, but we do have the fancy rare versions. So there we go. All the cards from Evolving Skies. All the pre-evolutions are on the screen, even though we didn't mention them if they weren't relevant. And all the alternate arts and rainbows and all of that were again on the screen as we talked about the appropriate Pokemon. That is every single card from the set. Oh, actually, I should mention, there are gold reprints of Frostlass, Inteleon, Cresselia, and Turffield Stadium, which I suppose I didn't mention before because they're reprints. And then there are gold versions of Lightning, Darkness, and Metal Energy. So there we go. Now you've seen every card from the set. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is over to you guys, and I want to know what you think. I want to know your favourite card from the set. I want to know what you're looking forward to. I want to know anything you want to tell me, so let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing is always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.